At about 5:30 p.m. yesterday, Sheikh Hasina had landed at the Hindon airbase just short of the national capital. Because it's been 24 hours and Sheikh Hasina continues to be at the Indian Air Force airbase near Delhi. No clarity yet on what will be her next move. Will she get asylum in the United Kingdom because the UK has now refused temporary refuge? Where will Hasina head to next? That's the big question. Belgium is a question which needs to be answered. Will that be where Sheikh Hasina be heading next? But it's been over 24 hours and till now Sheikh Hasina remains in a safe house at an air base near Delhi. It's an Air Force air base, the Hindon air base. No clarity till now on where Sheikh Hasina will be headed next. She wanted to go to the United Kingdom, though her son had refuted these claims. And the UK, meanwhile, has, of course, come in and said they have refused to give her temporary refuge, saying very clearly that Sheikh Hasina should seek immediate refuge in a nearby country. What does it mean for Sheikh Hasina? All of this in the backdrop of Bangladesh plunging into virtual chaos, where over 440 people have died. Minorities now being attacked across the country as well. Word coming in on that front. Well, that's the latest update coming in. Of course, the big question still remains, where will Sheikh Hasina be headed? Earlier on, there were speculations that Sheikh Hasina would be going to London, but UK, at least as temporary refuge, has refused. They've made it very clear that Sheikh Hasina should seek asylum in a nearby country, at least temporarily. All right, okay, so the latest is also, will she now be en route to a different country? And could that country be in Europe? What we have been given to understand that Sheikh Hasina to move out of India in the next 48 hours. There have already been 24 hours while Sheikh Hasina has been very close to the national capital, housed in a safe house at the Hindon Air Base. She might be headed to Europe, is what is being indicated. India to make arrangements for her next journey. These are all source-based information that are coming in thick and fast. Which European country will Sheikh Hasina go to? That's the big question. She has family in Belgium. Will it be Belgium? The United Kingdom has refused to give her asylum as of now and made it very clear that Sheikh Hasina needs to seek asylum in a nearby country, at least temporarily. But India is now going to be stepping in what capacity? What our sources tell us, that India will make arrangements for her next journey. What also coming in all probability, she might be headed to a European nation, and it's the next 48 hours that Sheikh Hasina will leave the Indian soil. Yesterday, in dramatic developments, as things became very, very volatile, Sheikh Hasina flew to India and landed at the Hindon Air Base at 5:30 p.m. and she's been on Indian soil since the last 24 hours. Her son has now made it very clear that Sheikh Hasina is never going to go back to Bangladesh or politically intervene in the going-ons of Bangladesh at all, and that's a big statement coming in for him. But in terms of asylum, where is Sheikh Hasina headed to? We're going to try and get in a larger understanding, try and cut across to our reporters. But right now, what we are showing you is Sheikh Hasina lodged at a safe house at the Hindon Air Base. United Kingdom was one country that Sheikh Hasina had approached, even though her son had said that United Kingdom was not an option. But UK officially has now rejected asylum, where Sheikh Hasina comes into question, making it very clear that Sheikh Hasina needs to look for at least temporary refuge in a nearby country. India, on the other hand, would not be very keen, keeping in mind the current political dynamics as it is. in the subcontinent, especially vis-a-vis what would be the new regime in Bangladesh, would not want Sheikh Hasina to be on Indian soil. And word coming in that India is going to be the one which will make arrangements for Sheikh Hasina to leave India for a European country. What we can tell our viewers that in all probability, Sheikh Hasina is going to be Europe bound in the next 48 hours. My colleague Gaurav Sawant joins us for more. Gaurav, what more can you add?
So there were two options initially. One was United Kingdom. The second was Finland. These were the two countries that were being talked about. Initially, the United Kingdom, there was some hope, but rules in the United Kingdom say, at least that is what sources are quoting, that as soon as an individual reaches the first country where they can remain safe, if they're not safe in their own country of origin, then they should seek shelter in the first country, and that first country in Sheikh Hasina's case is India. But given the fact that India would want good relations with whatever regime comes to power in Bangladesh, you'd recall in multiple instances where there have been either a coup like in Maldives earlier when President Nasheed was ousted, India did not interfere or intervene in any situation. India waited for people in Maldives to come up with a solution and then engaged with whatever government came to power. That is India's well-established policy. So given that situation, and should Sheikh Hasina be a wanted person after 300 people were killed in Bangladesh, India would not want to be in a situation where she would have to be handed over to whatever regime comes to power in Bangladesh. So that's why it's a pit stop for her here in India. And perhaps after refueling, it was the initial thought that she would go to Europe. Now there's a delay, but India will make arrangements for her safe travel to whatever country she's going to, whether it's going to be
these
UK
arrangements that India is going to make, as per our sources, where, what is the fine print of this arrangement? Is India going to now intervene possibly diplomatically, to get passage or asylum for Sheikh Hasina? Is that going to happen? Will India negotiate on her behalf? Or is India just going to make sure that in the next 48 hours, India assists Sheikh Hasina to leave Indian soil to whichever country offers her asylum?
The latter. It is for Sheikh Hasina to make those arrangements, and India will only facilitate her travel to that location, is what sources are telling India today. But there is no 48-hour deadline, so to say. If it takes a little longer for her to get a safer location, because it's not just her immediate stay or her immediate departure. One would also have to see that wherever she goes, she remains safe there. And again, on that count, UK, given the turmoil in the United Kingdom, the rift, and especially with the situation there taking a turn for the worse, that India had to issue an advisory for travellers to UK to be very vigilant. UK may not be the best option. Would it be Finland? Would it be any of the other Nordic countries or elsewhere? That remains to be seen right now.
Gaurav, it's a tightrope diplomatic walk for India, because UK seemingly has rejected asylum, at least temporarily, for Sheikh Hasina. The US also seems to be going on the same pattern. And India, like you also pointed out, would not really want Sheikh Hasina to overstay a diplomatic welcome of sorts, because whatever the regime, like you pointed out, India would want good relationships with. So how does India try and maneuver the situation if Sheikh Hasina is unable, to negotiate passage or asylum in a country of her choice?
So that would actually expose hypocrisy of the West in case someone who fears being persecuted in her own country is unable to find refuge in these European countries or in the United States of America or elsewhere because of all their tall claims of freedom of expression and so on. And in case she's unable to find safe refuge somewhere, it would just show that these countries are, one, either scared, two, hostage to the Islamists in their own country. So it remains to be seen where she's able to find safe refuge and how quickly does that happen.
All right.
But India
I'm going to come right back. Gaurav, I'm going to come right back to you. Joining me right now is my colleague Shivani, who tracks defense, also tracking the latest development where Sheikh Hasina is concerned. Shivani, what are your sources telling you? 48 hours is where India hopes that Sheikh Hasina will get asylum and India will facilitate in that.
Preeti, all the arrangements are being made, and what the sources have now revealed to India today is that Sheikh Hasina would be leaving the country in next 48 hours. She can move towards Europe. She's already in talks with few countries. One is Finland, another is Russia, and India will also be making arrangements for her safe journey towards her next abode, because India cannot manage to provide her a long halt out here. So she will be leaving, and we are right now outside Hindon airbase, where she had landed yesterday. It's more than 24 hours now. And we've also been seeing that Prime Minister Narendra Modi, he's monitoring the whole situation, her coming to India, and then she leaving. All is being monitored, all is being arranged. There are multiple meetings that are happening, multiple arrangements that are going on right now. So the biggest update right now is that she will be leaving India in next 48 hours, and still talks are on to confirm which country it would be.
So 48 hours is what we're looking at, that Sheikh Hasina would be leaving Indian soil. In all probability, the destination is going to be a European country. But which European country? We do understand that Sheikh Hasina has family in Belgium. That would be an option, but we're going to keep an eye on all possible developments. It's been 24 hours, viewers, that Sheikh Hasina has been on Indian soil right now in a safe house at the Hindon Air Base, an Air Force Air Base, very close to the national capital. But quickly taking you through the top developments. Sheikh Hasina remains in India. Her asylum plans in the United Kingdom hit a roadblock with the UK refusing Sheikh Hasina temporary refuge. Meanwhile, India continues to keep a close watch on the Bangladesh crisis as the country is plunged into virtual chaos. While External Affairs Minister S Jaishankar addressed the Parliament on the issue today, he also held a meeting with Home Minister Amit Shah in Parliament as India mulls options for Hasina's safe passage. And these are disconcerting images from the aftermath of the violence that unraveled at the Prime Minister's residence in the capital, Dhaka, on Monday. An empty residence looted, vandalized, showing the remnants of destruction. Meanwhile, an uneasy calm prevails in Bangladesh. Over hundreds have died. 440 right now is the official count in protests. But daily life slowly limping back to normalcy in capital Dhaka. Meanwhile, aside from Hindu temples being targeted in Bangladesh, these images of the aftermath of looting and arson at the Indira Gandhi Cultural Centre in the capital of Dhaka. And what? The top developments that are taking place, but let's quickly cut across to our panel this evening, getting you the latest, the ringside view and all dimensions of a crisis that is still unfolding in Bangladesh as a country and possibly diplomatically on Indian soil. Where will Sheikh Hasina go? Let's cut across right now. My colleague Geeta Mohan, Executive Editor, National Bureau, India Today, will be joining us. Brahma Chalani, Strategic Affairs Expert, former advisor to India's National Security Council. Lieutenant General Satish Dua, former GOC, 15 Corps, Kashmir, retired as Chief of Integrated Defence Staff, Indian Army. Rajiv Dogra, former diplomat. Mr. Brahma Chalani joining us. First question to you, sir. How do you view the current situation in Bangladesh and vis-a-vis with Sheikh Hasina now in India for the last 24 hours?
There is a dangerous power vacuum in Bangladesh. Sheikh Hasina has been deposed effectively in an army coup. The army watched the protests turn violent. The protest not only turned violent, they took the form of widespread looting and arson, including attacks on public infrastructure. The army allowed that situation to deteriorate to the point of no return. It appears that the army chief was conspiring against the Prime Minister because he allowed the situation to worsen to the point of no return and then told the Prime Minister that she had no choice but to leave Bangladesh. So we have these internal forces in Bangladesh and also external forces that had actually conspired against Hasina government for a long time. We've had Pakistan working against her government. Then we've had China of late expressing displeasure with Hasina, and the US under Biden since last year threatened to impose sanctions on the Hasina government to ensure free and fair elections. So powerful forces outside and as well as powerful forces inside both have ensured that Hasina is out of power, and the situation today is so dangerous in terms of because of the instability and the threat of continuing disorder. There can be no governance of any kind without public order being restored. So the biggest task facing the interim government, which has still not been formed, is to have at least a semblance of law and order.
Rajiv Dogra, yesterday we discussed at length on what possibly this means for Bangladesh and what it actually even means for India. But right now, India clearly in a catch-22 situation because it seems no country quite wants Sheikh Hasina or to offer her asylum. They are looking at certain European countries. India would not want Sheikh Hasina to overstay her diplomatic, welcome. How do you read the situation?
Well, I don't think we should second guess at the moment India's priorities or India's options, because there are many things which the government does not want to disclose for clear and strategic and obvious reasons. So let me leave India aside for a moment, because we'll get to know India's wisdom and India's choices in the coming days and weeks. But let me focus on the effect that Bangladesh and its crisis has had on the wider world. And I refer here to the British trickery. Because if I heard your report right, then Britain has come up with a new theory that if a person, if a VIP or if a deposed leader lands in one country first, then he has to stay or she has to stay in that country. Now, this has never happened before. After all, British, once upon a time, prided itself in offering asylum. British, in recent years, has been, most welcoming to crooks and the convicts of a second country, in this case, India. I mean, Britain is full of people who run away from India after committing a financial crime, and they're finding safe haven there. So Britain is an expert at this kind of trickery with rules, interpretations, and what suits it at a particular moment. It has forgotten about human rights. It's forgotten about its traditional values of welcoming a political seeker of asylum. The reason here is what they do not want to disclose is that Bangladeshi community in
internal
Britain
politics, yes,
is a volatile one. And just now, Britain is in flames in many of its parts, so it does not want to add to its agony. And that is why it said that temporarily we do not want her here. Let us first settle our own house. So the other thing, the other signal that it gives, the British reaction again, I'm focusing on that, is how the world has changed. The world has indeed become very small. It has become very flat. So the consequences of a situation in a particular country or in a particular place of the world has ripple effect in far distant shores. So we are, if I may carry on for a few more seconds, we are in a particularly delicate situation because please remember, Sheikh Hasina provided us a zone of comfort in an otherwise very, very turbulent neighborhood for us.
True.
Now that zone of comfort may not any longer be available, as history was proved when Sheikh Hasina or Mujibur Rahman were no longer governing Bangladesh. We had a very almost hostile government in place during those years. So what shape the new government takes, what policies it adopts remains to be seen. But I don't think we will have Bangladesh as a zone of comfort in the months and years to come.
But, you know, you are right there in that aspect. Does expose the hypocrisy of the United Kingdom in refusing asylum to Sheikh Hasina, a leader on her own right who's been persecuted in her country. But I just want to bring in Lieutenant General Satish Dua into this conversation as well. And General Dua, you know, taking off from what Rajiv Dogra was saying, Sheikh Hasina till now, has been in the subcontinent, India's closest geopolitical partner. Not having her there puts India in a very uncomfortable spot because we really don't know what's going to come next.
That's right. We have some huge security concerns depending on the dispensation that will come next. Because India has the longest border that India has is with Bangladesh. Surprisingly, it's longer than China at 4,096 kilometers. Now, this is a very porous border. And depending on the dispensation, or the new dispensation, we are likely to see some migration, some immigrants moving across the borders to the neighboring states. And if that happens, then hardliners, ISI is bound to make its entrance now that Jamaat-e-Islami is going to be a part of the dispensation. It was present in the all-party meeting that was taking place yesterday. So with that kind of tendencies, we are likely to see hardliners also try to push in across the borders into India. And that is going to be a security issue for our country. Second, and the only other thing that I would like to say is before Sheikh Hasina's term, which has been a very long term, there were terrorist groups that acted in northeastern states, that operated in our northeastern states. They found safe havens. They had terrorist camps across the border in Bangladesh. Now there is a danger of that getting revived again. And if that happens, then other than Manipur, the rest of the northeast is comparatively stable, and Manipur doesn't have a border with Bangladesh. That terrorism angle could start off acting up again and create more problems for us. So I think these are the two security concerns which India needs to watch very, very keenly.
You know, Mr. Brahmachalani, to bring you in on this, because these two security concerns, where you have the Jamaat, the hardliners, where you have the principal opposition, the Bangladeshi Nationalist Party, the BNP, which has always favored China, and, you know, keeping in mind the historical distrust between China and India, doesn't augur well for India.
You're absolutely right. Whichever way you look at this situation, it represents a huge setback to Indian interests. But apart from the strategic setback, it's a setback to Indian interests in specific areas. For example, the connectivity with Pakistan, with Bangladesh, the investment, the transit rights that India had through Bangladesh, the defense-related projects that India was pursuing with Bangladesh, all are at stake now. And as the General pointed out, General Dua, that we face the specter now of ISI reestablishing its base in Bangladesh and trying to destabilize our northeast. So not only is it a setback to our security and anti-terrorism cooperation with Bangladesh, we face the possibility that Bangladesh will once again become a haven for anti-India forces, including from Pakistan and China. China is already using Myanmar to infiltrate weapons into India. Some of these northeastern Indian insurgents go for training to China through Myanmar. In Myanmar, we are already having a virtual civil war that has been fueled by foreign powers. And now foreign powers have also been indirectly involved in what has unfolded in Bangladesh. So whichever way you look at it, this is a huge challenge for India. In fact, several of India's neighbors are now unstable, but Bangladesh being unstable is going to be a huge blow to Indian security because, as General Dua pointed out, it's a very long border, the longest border we have with any neighboring country, but also it's a very porous border. It's a porous border that is almost impossible to patrol effectively. So internal developments in Bangladesh, especially a Bangladesh that's destabilized, a Bangladesh that is under the Islamist influence, will have cross-border impacts on India's internal security. So for India, almost overnight, the situation has changed regionally.